It's highly probable, if you're thinking of moving to New Zealand, that you've considered Canada as well. Canada is like New Zealand on steroids. It's got the lakes and the nature and the huge big mountains and all that space, but it's also got its downsides.
Bears and wildlife and clean and lovely. And is that right, would you say, if someone described that? Oh no, Suzanne's. Oh, hang on.
So let's jump into the show and find out why this couple chose New Zealand to spend their retirement over Canada.
It's a Drama, coming to you from Taranaki, New Zealand.
Hello.
Daddy, I love him!
Mother thanks you.
Right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Welcome, Randy and Suzanne. So excited to have you on the episode. Just can't wait to get to know you better. I just want to say I've been waiting for this interview for so long, simply because Randy is Canadian, Suzanne is a Kiwi, and they're part of our community and they're making the big move back over to New Zealand. And I've been dying to know about your story. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show with us today.
Well, thanks for having us. This is awesome.
Oh, we're excited to be here.
Thank you. Look, let's just jump straight in. If you just tell us who you are, a little bit about yourselves, you know, just your background and how you came to be sitting on this Zoom call with me today.
Well, I'm Suzanne.
I'm Randy.
I was born and raised in New Zealand, but I've spent my entire adult life in Canada. So that ends up being 2/3 of my life here. So I'm probably a little bit more Canadian than I am Kiwi at the moment. So we're going to have to balance that out by going back to New Zealand. But I've done numbers of jobs because I never went into a specific career. I would say being a cook, not an official, but for like workers, contract workers, but teaching computers to adults and children, like using software programs. And being a photo editor is probably my favorite jobs I've ever done. I know I'm not working right now, but I'm looking at pursuing my true passion, which is creating art and making handmade items. I think that's pretty much me.
That's pretty good. Yeah, and I'm born and raised in Canada. I've lived in Northern Ontario most of my life. I'm an electrician by trade. Right now, I'm an electrical safety inspector for the province. One thing we share is we have a love of exploring nature and seeing wildlife, camping and boating and all the water sports. That's who we are and what we do and what we like, and looking forward to retirement. One thing actually I'd like to say is I really want to mention how much we appreciate It's a Drama and the community that you've created on Slack. It's been an incredible group to be with, and anybody listening to this and hasn't seen this should join these groups. Even just for getting to understand the people moving and all the things that you may not know, the group is just such a fantastic bunch, and you guys are two of the most hilarious people to watch I've ever seen. So we really appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much, Randy. I didn't pay you to say that, did I?
No, but we'll talk about the check later.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. It's just been, you're just such a valuable asset to our group. You really are. It's wonderful having you. And thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. And can I just say, Suzanne, when you're talking, I'm like, look at this woman's cheekbones. I'm just looking at your cheekbones and I'm thinking, wow, she's got gorgeous cheekbones. You look like an artist. You just...
And all the dimples on this side too.
Oh, gorgeous. Absolutely lovely. I can't wait to die. And I never knew that about you. I didn't know that you were... I didn't know that. And here's me going, oh, by the way, we're going to do a Zoom. Do you know how to use the computer, Suzanne? And you're like, oh, I teach computers still.
Well, that was a long time ago. But yeah, I'm not too bad with computers.
Sure.
Yeah.
It depends. It's more of the software, using Word Perfect or Word or is what I taught. But yeah.
Right. Oh, you know, we get so many people come to us on YouTube and through the podcast and things, and they The biggest thing they ask us when they're thinking about moving to New Zealand, there's always like 3 places they're thinking of emigrating to: New Zealand, Canada, or Australia. And it's usually New Zealand and Canada, New Zealand and Canada that tend to go hand in hand. Just like me and Brian, when we were thinking of moving over here, you might know, but Canada was also on the top of our list about whether to move. Yeah, we get so many people saying, oh, they seem such similar countries, and we don't know which one to choose. So when I found out that you were Canadian and you were married to a Kiwi, it was like, wow, this is just going to be brilliant. And I'm so excited to jump in and so can you just tell me, how did you guys meet? Where and how did you guys meet?
Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, go ahead. Her story is way more interesting than mine.
Oh, it's just so romantic the way we met. Randy is by trade an electrician. So I was living with my uncle in Canada, and my uncle hired Randy's place of work for some electrical work, and he's the one that got the job. So he shows up. He's down in the basement for quite a while. So I'm like, I'm going to go see what's going on. Does he need anything? Does he need any help? Does he need a drink or something? So I got to go down the stairs, and there's an opening to the right. And then the electrical panel is straight through. So as I step off the bottom stair into the opening, my eyes fall upon him at the electrical panel, and there was sparks.
Oh
yeah. But she meant literal
sparks.
Really?
Her timing was impeccable. I was fishing a cable into the panel board, and I slipped with a pair of pliers, and I melted the steel tips off the pliers. The explosion that came up, and all she gets is this bright light as I'm coming down the stairs to see what I'm doing. Yeah. That day, she learned some Canadian slang, actually.
Yeah, I learned a couple of things. He assures me that it was professional electrical trade speak.
Absolutely.
And I learned why electricians are called Sparkies.
Yeah. Oh, what a brilliant story. So how old were you? When was this? How old were you?
Oh, I was 17.
Oh, right. You've been together ages then.
Yeah, we've been married 20 years, but been together 34, 35 years.
Almost 40, yeah, 36.
36? Well, okay.
Oh.
So we've been together a long time.
You have.
But that's how we met. We didn't start dating till sometime after, but the fact is that's how we met.
What a fabulous story that is.
Sparks were flying and
so romantic.
It is romantic. Were you a bit of a cowboy then, Randy?
I'm sorry?
Were you a bit of a cowboy?
No, I'm not. but there was choice words at that moment for sure.
So Suzanne, how old were you then when you left New Zealand?
I was 17.
Okay.
Just turned. So yes, by the time we started to get to know each other, I was almost 18. Right. And I had just turned 17 when I came over.
Okay. Did you come over with your family, or did you come over on your own?
It was an unusual way to come over. I didn't actually specifically choose to come to Canada. It was a family situation.
Right.
My aunt had her son, and shortly after she got diagnosed with cancer. So she got treatment for it, and then she came to New Zealand. And so I would have met her for about the 4th time when she visited with her son. And shortly after she returned to Canada, she found she was back out of remission. The cancer had come back. Mm-hmm. And so I basically came to Canada to help take care of my cousin.
Right.
And it was so quick. It was not really planned. It was just the country she happened to be living in at the time.
Yeah.
Because she was a Kiwi too. And so I ended up here and never left.
Yeah. Well, why would you? Why would you?
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to convince her of that all the time. You don't know how good you have it.
Well, it's taken almost 40 years to convince me. I'm starting to wonder.
But you medicate her enough and she starts to believe it. So we're pretty good.
Oh, so there's so many things I want to ask you. Have you been back to New Zealand, you two? Do you go back regularly, or
No.
You don't?
No, we've been back. I've been there to New Zealand twice. The first time we spent a lot of time near their farm, near this middle of the North Island. And then second time after we got married in 2002 was the last time we were back.
Right.
We were married in the island of Kauai. And then we came to New Zealand, spent 4 weeks, I think an additional 4 weeks in New Zealand. We went down to Dunedin and helped close the Cadbury factory. And I'm kidding. Every place we visited in New Zealand seems to have closed since we've been there. But so we traveled a little bit down and around Dunedin. So we're familiar with the area down there with the rest of the Slack crew down there. And so we traveled around a little bit there. Never been to Christchurch, though. We flew into Christchurch and never went there. But, so we came there twice. But at that stage in 2002, really came to the decision in my mind, if I came back one more time, we probably wouldn't leave.
Really?
And so we, for my career and everything else where we're at, we kind of had to stick around, stay away. We loved New Zealand so much. And I understood why she loved it so much as well.
Right. And
it's his retirement that's making it possible for us to go back and retire.
Yeah.
Be retired.
Right, we're going to jump into that in a minute. Let me just, first of all, whereabouts in Canada are you, and whereabouts in New Zealand did you come from, Suzanne? So whereabouts in Canada do you live now?
We live in central Ontario, a place called Sudbury, Ontario, which is about 4 hours north of Toronto.
Okay.
Which doesn't make it Northern Ontario. If you look, actually, you guys were out in British Columbia at some point in your lives, cooks in a resort or something. You were way north from where we are now. We were, because where we live now is actually about the same height as Seattle, Washington on the coast. Right. Ontario drops way into the States. So we're kind of in that area. So
is it in the middle of Canada?
Ontario is yes. Ontario. Well, actually, it's about 45-hour drive from where we live to Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
On the Pacific, but it's only 18 hours to the Atlantic Ocean on the other side.
Right.
So we're more towards the Atlantic Ocean than we are towards the Pacific.
Okay, that gives me an idea where you are then. And Suzanne, whereabouts from New Zealand did you come from?
Well, from the North Island, so probably the most commonly known or recognized place to name would be Lake Taupo.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we were close to Mount Ruapehu. So if you are a skier, you might know Ofongo.
Right.
That was our closest village.
Yeah.
And then the closest town that we would go to would be Tamarnui. Right.
Okay. That's a lovely area of New Zealand, isn't it? It's a really beautiful part of New Zealand. We've been skiing to Ruapehu twice, I think. And every time we go there, we're like, why don't we come here more often? Because it's not that far from Taranaki. But it's just, I don't know why we don't. But every time I go there, I love it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's such a nice area but it's beautiful.
It's probably a little colder than where you are.
Yeah, maybe that's why we don't go.
The frosts are pretty frosty.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what's the coldest you get where you are?
How cold is it, Brian? -1, Brian's saying. He's not allowed on the camera. He's too naughty. We're gonna do another private chat for our community after we've recorded this video, and Brian's allowed in on that. But yeah, about -1, Suzanne. So
we can get some pretty good frosts where we were, and it's been known to go down to -10.
Yeah. Right. Wow. Yeah. And just
go ahead.
No, you go.
It says here in Canada, where we are, we've had one of the coldest winters in a long time, and we averaged minus 30 there for a few weeks.
Oh, wow.
And
I can't imagine.
Like, it's beautiful. I sent pictures of the lake here, and but that's why New Zealand sounds pretty good.
I just want to say as well, for people that are listening, the reference that Randy just made to the Dunedin crew on the Slack group, we've had a load of people, I say a load, how many have we had? About 5 have gone down to Dunedin? They're just like en masse moving to Dunedin, aren't they? And they love Dunedin. We've got Miley, Katie, Emil has just gone down or is about to go down there, a couple of others. And it's just, they can't rave enough about Dunedin. And do you know what, Randy and Suzanne? I agree, because when we went down there, I was just... Why did I not know about this place? I don't mean to say that because I want everyone to move to Dunedin, because obviously I don't, but what a place. What a stunning place Dunedin is. So lovely.
You're trying to keep them away from Taranaki.
I am, yeah. Oh, so Suzanne, I know you were only 17 when you left New Zealand, but being a young 17-year-old girl and moving from New Zealand to Canada, what was that like for you? Did you miss home? Did you just fall straight into life in Canada? How was that?
I pretty much fell straight into life because of the circumstances that I came over here for.
Right.
It was full on 17, and I'm basically a mom to a 2-year-old. Chasing him around, doing laundry and groceries. It was full on. I really learned how to live here very fast.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't have
Susan,
too much.
One thing about her is she's quite an adaptive or adventurous person as well. Right? She's an amazing woman, I have to admit. And she paid me to say that, by the way. But she really is. She very, like I said, adaptive, adventurous, and that helped quite a bit. And beautiful and charming, sophisticated, mature, intellectual. Yeah.
You're doing really well, Randy.
Well, it's that knife she has in my back. She keeps pushing it.
Oh, do you know what? I've just got to say, I love the Canadian sense of humor. I forgot how much I love your sense of humor, you guys. It's completely different. I don't want to say America hasn't got a sense of humor. I love that Canadian sense of humor. It's just so warm. It's very British, isn't it? Just that whole. I just like it. Oh, right. What else can I ask you? So, tell me about life in Canada. What is life in Canada like? I mean, that's a big question, isn't it? But just
actually, it's an interesting question. When you look at Canada, and if you actually compare it directly to New Zealand, we have a lot of the same things. In a lot of ways, Canada and New Zealand is very similar, but in a lot of ways, it's so different. Canada is so vast. We've traveled so much here in Canada. We've went out, took 3 weeks holidays, and we never made it to British Columbia because there's so much to see and do while traveling that distance. So life in Canada is, you got lakes, like crazy amount of lakes. Actually, Canada has over 850,000 lakes, over 40% of the lakes of the world. Wow. Now, a lot of them are in Northern Ontario, like in the northern part of Canada, but it's just a massive amount of lakes. So we're spoiled. Right in around the city we live in, there's over 330 lakes right in the area we live. Wow. Yeah, so that it's a lot of water sports and camping and all that kind of hiking, exploring is so right at our hands. One of the places that is near here for probably a long distance in New Zealand, not so far from here, but is a place called Manitoulin Island. And what Manitoulin Island is the largest island in the world on a freshwater lake. And it's about an hour and a half from where we live. And on it, it actually has the largest lake on an island on a lake.
Oh, hang on. The largest lake, the largest island on a lake in the world.
Yes.
And on the island is the largest lake on an island on a lake in the world.
Yes, that's correct.
So it's brilliant.
But it's such a wonderful place. It's one of those places when you hear people talk about island life. You drive out onto Manitoulin Island and you're going through all these great rock formations, like the Pancake area down in South Island. It has areas like that. And driving in through all the granite rock, and once you get onto the island, you're up overlooking Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, which is a bay off of Lake Huron, one of the Great Lakes here in Canada and the U.S. And it's everybody slows down. Everybody just takes their time. It's just absolutely beautiful. You see deer and porcupines and all the nature we have here, and it's just one of the most tranquil places in the world. I actually thought that is one of the places we would retire to, is that island, because it's so beautiful. So life in Canada is like anywhere else, but it's
interesting.
It's interesting.
What do you mean, Suzanne? Why are you saying it's interesting? Speak up, Suzanne. Come on.
So what was the next question?
Suzanne, over to you, love.
It depends on what your interests are, where in Canada you are, what you like doing, what you don't like doing. When I left New Zealand, like I said, we could get down to minus 10 degrees. I thought it was inhuman. When it dropped to minus 10, I'm like, oh. But we would be warm by lunchtime. So you come here, minus 10 is a balmy day. You fire up the Barbie and you cook a steak. You could go out in your t-shirt on a minus 10 degree day here. And it gets a lot colder. We've had a bunch of minus 30 this winter.
Yeah. And Susie really loves our bugs, biting insects.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something to experience. New Zealand has mosquitoes, sandflies, midges, black flies. Yeah, no. No. You experience something completely different. If you're in Northern Ontario, if you're in Southern Ontario, maybe not so much. Like if you're in a city or something like that, no. But if you go out in the bush, it is, you're going to want to suit up with the whole fly screen suit.
Like everybody knows about mosquitoes and black flies or sandflies and stuff.
They think they know.
But I don't know if you've ever experienced horse flies or deer flies.
Horse flies, yeah.
So they're big, but deer flies are smaller and faster and they bite harder.
They take a chunk of flesh with them when they go.
They are just not a fun thing to be in the bush. You have all this beautiful nature, and then you have sometimes these things just driving you absolutely crazy.
You literally go batty because there's swarms of them. You could sit there with a fly swatter and continuously kill them, and you've not made a dent. Yeah. Like for every one that you kill, 20 more show up.
We have a drinking game with flies. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll be over tomorrow, Randy.
You wouldn't last 5 minutes if you had to drink every time you swatted one. But even the black flies and the mosquitoes, they have a different mosquito here to what I was used to.
Yeah.
And it's very large and very slow. And you would think, like if they're large and slow, they're easier to handle than the New Zealand ones, which are fast, zip, zip, gone with your blood with them. Yeah, no. There is so many that one pretty much kamikazes and you kill him while
the 18 other feeding.
60 million of his friends are going.
That is I didn't know about that. First of all, Suzanne, I just need to point out, I love the fact that you still say, yeah, nah, because that's what you just said about 2 minutes ago. Yeah, nah. It's like, cool, this woman is still a Kiwi.
You can, what is that thing? You can take a Kiwi out of New Zealand, but you can't take New Zealand out of the Kiwi.
That's right. And so is that all over Canada then? Or is it just where you are, these flying beasts?
No, they're like your I'm pretty sure from what I've understood from the what do you call them, sandflies in the west coast of the South Island are going to be very similar to our black flies.
Right.
But our black flies only last 2 weeks every spring. Basically, they're gone after that.
Well,
so
they're more of opportunist. They actually do come back out in the fall. It's temperature. If it's too hot, they hibernate, and if it's too cold, they're hibernating.
Yeah.
But at your sister's property, they get pretty bad again in the fall.
Yeah, it can be. So they're not, but you can really enjoy yourself. And that's why a lot of people spend a lot more time on the water, because as soon as you get a breeze or something like that, most of the pests
bugs
are no longer.
Yeah. They're not going to bother you as much.
Except for the biting flies, because they will come look for you on the water.
They take names. Eh?
They take names. They go, this one's tasty.
I'm getting a feeling here. So, I've got a feeling that Randy's like flying the Canadian flag, and Suzanne's like, hang on a minute.
Yeah,
you need to know this. But, I can't believe that about that island and that lake. I can picture it in my mind, and now I'm thinking I really want to go and experience that, because that just sounds divine.
Yeah, he's very mean about it. He loves the island, and in his job, he gets to drive around on the island sometimes for hours, because he spends the whole day there when he's assigned to that area. And then he comes home and he goes, yeah, I saw lynx, and yeah, I saw wolves, and yeah, I saw coyotes, and yeah, I saw.
Well, you've seen bears in our backyard here in town.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. So. I was going to ask you about that, because the perception of Canada, for people who haven't been, and also for me as well, and you know, because all the areas of Canada that we haven't been, it's this mountainous, rugged, stunning, beautiful scenery, bears and wildlife and everything, nature, and everything is just clean and lovely. And is that right? Would you say, if someone described that? Oh no, Suzanne's. Oh, hang on. Oh, I'm so glad I got you two on together. Thank God I did this. Yes.
A lot of those are true.
Yes.
A lot of them are true.
But it depends where you go.
Yeah. But actually, Canada is such a vast country. We have places where you don't have bush, right? We have the prairies. We have two provinces, Manitoba and Saskatchewan, where it's all grassland. Right? For the most part.
There's a joke that, if you know country music, right?
Yes.
So there's a joke, if your wife leaves you, you see her leaving you for days.
Oh, really?
It is so flat that oh yeah, she's still leaving me.
Oh, see, I don't imagine that about Canada. So that's something I didn't know. I didn't know that they had flat prairie land. I just thought it was all mountains. And
so were you in British Columbia or Alberta?
British Columbia.
Yeah. Okay. So as soon as you cross into Alberta, you have the end of the mountains, and you go to what we call the Mohills. And then as soon as you hit the Saskatchewan border, now you're into our prairies. It's all grassland.
Right.
And we actually have in Alberta, there's almost a desert in an area called Drumheller. And that's where all our dinosaur bones and stuff like that's been found. It's kind of a smaller version of the Grand Canyon type area, where it's very dry. And I don't know if you've never seen
no,
it.
I've never been there.
That sounds
Badlands.
beautiful. That sounds beautiful.
It's very interesting. Our cactus, we have rattlesnakes out there and stuff like
There's
that. There's
a rattlesnake native to Ontario that resides in an area very close to us. I actually almost got bit once.
Yeah.
Did you?
I jumped off a rock ledge, and for some reason I was going to step down, and instead I decided, oh no, I'll jump. So because I jumped a few feet away instead of stepping down, he was coiled up right under. It was just a little hole. I would have got bit, and we were on a boat down a river. I don't know if I would have made it to help in time. But yeah, but they didn't really know about it. And I had heard a baby rattle, and I'm going, baby rattle? Why does that ring a bell for me? And I had done some research for a work event that he had, and I'd found out that they have this Massasauga rattlesnake. So I was actually aware enough to go, baby rattle. I bet you that's a rattlesnake.
Does it sound like a rattle?
It sounds like a baby
does
rattle.
it?
Yeah. So, but it was enough that as I realized jumping several, like across instead of stepping down, I avoided, because I didn't clue in right away. It was growing in my mind, the memory of doing the research and finding out about the snake and going, oh,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure when she jumped down, she scared the poop out of it, and that's why she didn't get bit.
So what would you say to someone like us, me and Brian? Because when we went over to Canada, we desperately wanted to make a go of it over there because we'd spent some time in Canada working as a couple without the kids. Then when the kids were born, we were like, we loved it so much, such a beautiful country. And like I say, we only saw a minuscule bit of it. But we were, and I know this sounds like really weak, but we were scared of, like, because we love camping and things like that and going out in the bush, and we were scared of getting eaten by a bear. I can't say it any better than that. We were just scared. We were like, oh no, what if we get eaten, and what if the kids get grabbed by a cougar? And you know, it was quite a scary thing. Do you think that's a silly thing for us to think?
No.
Well, when you get over to towards where you were, British Columbia, Alberta, northern, as you go further north, you have the grizzlies and those types of bears, which are way more dangerous than you have we have black bears here mostly. Yeah. Now, you still don't want to cross a black bear or get in its way or anything like that.
Certain times of the year, especially
when they have their cubs.
When they come out of hibernation, they're very hungry. You're
more likely to get mauled by a black bear than anything else, where a grizzly might consider you food, right?
Yeah.
And there's a joke that that goes on, and this warden's telling these people about the differences. Be careful, black bears and grizzlies and these. So to prevent black bears, what we do is we attach little rattles on you while you're going through the bush and hiking to scare off the black bear. They'll know you're there. You won't come on upon them, and you won't scare them, and they'll just keep away. And he says, so we watch for their scat, right? And so if you see a lot of berries and stuff, that's a black bear. And so just be cautious. And it said, but if you see, the one person says, well, what happens if it's a grizzly? Well, you'll see a bunch of bells in the scat.
Exactly.
So you do have to be, and that's one of the things that changed her. Like Susie being so adventurous and wanting to hike it. When I went to see her at the farm where they lived, her sister, and then went to hike, and they had to dug all these tunnels in the pumice in the farm, and so they had all these holes. They look like groundhogs coming up out of the ground all over the place. Look at this, and they wanted me to come in. I go, yeah, I'm not going in that. But one of the things I noticed when she went to the farm, they had cattle, and she she's always been dainty, like dresses very nice, all the things about her. And she went over there, she put on her gum boots and just started class the crowd patties, and it just blew my mind apart. But because she liked to hike and do all that stuff. But here, she learned that you have to be a little more cautious. Around here, I've seen wolves, and we have coyotes, and we have black bears, and you have to be a little more careful.
I'm small and tasty and easy to catch, so I can't go out by myself.
Does it scare you, Suzanne?
Well, yes. You always have it in the back of your mind, because we were out gardening, like he said earlier. We were out gardening in our backyard one day. I don't know which one of us looked up. And
I seen it from the deck. And
no,
so
we were, no, that
I just made sure I was between her and the bear. I mean, she was between me and the bear. But
the one I'm talking about, we were in the garden.
Yeah,
and
no, I know.
You looked across and goes, that's a really weird looking dog.
Yeah.
And I look and I'm like, oh my God, that's a bear.
Yeah.
It was
not that far away.
Not very far away.
Yeah.
So we're like, we better get inside. But we would talk to the neighbor, and he goes, oh yeah, we've seen 5 wandering down the road, just just this
And
week.
we're in a small town
Yeah,
here, but
yeah.
it's but that you really have to worry about that in the spring or in the fall before they hibernate.
If
That's
they're
when you normally see them.
hungry,
Yeah.
they can be
Aggressive.
more dangerous.
Black bears typically aren't dangerous.
So they come out the fall, when you say the spring and the fall, so they come out with the mosquitoes as well then, and those horse flies and those other things that eat big chunks of your
They
skin.
would,
So just
they
don't
would actually come out a little earlier.
That's what, like I said, that's why we like boating so much. We're in the middle of the lake. They don't swim that well.
Yeah, yeah. Suzanne, what with you being an artist, how's Canada for that? How's you I mean, it's when I think of Canada, like I say, you think outdoors and walking and nature. What about if you're, you must want to go to art galleries and exhibitions and things like that. Can you, I mean, this is a silly question, I'm sorry, but can you feed that in you? Do you get to do those things?
I'm more into the doing
Okay.
than the going to see. But yes, there's even on Malantulin Island, there's an art gallery, and there's art galleries all over the place.
Right.
She does belong to an art club here in Sudbury.
An art club, yeah, yeah. I'd love to see your work. I'd love to see it. I bet it's fabulous. I bet it's absolutely lovely. So why? Okay, so Suzanne, have you been longing to move back to New Zealand, or have you enjoyed living in Canada?
It's one of those things where there's always things about a place that are good. So when it comes down to it, we have a life here. So it wasn't that it was a desperate need to go home. I suppose if I had have had a preference for where I lived, I would have chosen to live in New Zealand.
Oh.
But definitely traveling and seeing Canada it's a spectacular country. I keep comparing it to different countries. Ontario is a country unto itself. The East Coast is made up of four different provinces.
Two of them which are islands.
And so they're very seafood. So you get the seafood culture, and they're very, very friendly. Like almost unnaturally friendly. It's so old school friendly. Give the shirt off your back. You're driving down the road and you break down, they'll invite you in for a tea kind of thing.
Where's this? Where about in Ontario? You say
on the East Coast.
Oh, on the East Coast.
And
Nova
you won't
Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, and
right.
Prince Edward Island and Newfoundland.
Yeah, you won't experience that anywhere else in Canada.
Not like that. No.
But the snow they get is just crazy in the winter. Their winter is slightly shorter as far as temperature goes, but they get pounded by snow. If you watch videos and you see someone open a door and they reach into a snow fridge, that's the East Coast. We can't do that here.
Yeah, the door is covered fully top to bottom.
It's got an imprint of the door in the snow.
I know what you mean.
And they've carved out a fridge and they pull out a beer. That's the East Coast. Yeah. And there's probably nowhere else.
Nice, but it's actually a comparison between the East Coast and West Coast of Canada, the Atlantic or the Pacific, where the Atlantic, when you're out visiting and looking, they have, and the animals are so different as well, like the puffins and the icebergs you see on the East Coast. But you're in the East Coast of Canada, you're always along the ocean, right? And it's so beautiful, so you can always see the ocean. Where when you were in British Columbia, unless you're right down on waterfront, or you're way up in a mountain, you can't see the ocean because of the forests and the mountains and everything else. So.
And that's the other thing. In the East Coast or even Ontario, the mountains would be more in line with the North Island,
right,
or a cross between the North Island and the South Island. Whereas in BC, the mountains are huge. Yeah. All of BC is mountains, whereas Ontario, there's a lot of flat land like in the North Island. So you get hills and you get big inclines, but they don't tend to call them mountains.
No.
And like they're nothing, not even remotely close to BC. And even the trees and the greenery, you feel like you're in a different country.
Yeah, between provinces.
It is
and areas.
so lush in BC. It can get so dry. There's so like it
What was that mountain we went to? Stayed at the park in Manitoba, and I'm just going Turtle Mountain.
Turtle Mountain, yeah.
Turtle Mountain. It wasn't even a hill. Like
Really?
it was
But that
it was so funny. But that's the biggest because it's all flat because it's
they call it a
prairies.
mountain.
It's to them that's their hill. That's Turtle Mountain.
Yeah.
But you can see in the distance. This is how bad it is. You can see in the distance a little nub of a mountain from Alberta.
Yes.
And you can drive for weeks.
And that one guy's wife leaving.
Yeah. You can drive for weeks towards that mountain.
Still going.
and it slowly gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Like you drive
Forever before you get to the
forever.
mountains. Yeah.
And then by the time you get to the base of the mountain, you can't even see the top. It's just like, and there it is. Right in front.
Oh, that sounds stunning. And it's funny what you say about the East Coast and the West Coast.
Yeah.
It's like the South Island and the North Island, isn't it? You know, you go down to every time we go to the South Island, it's like you feel like you're in a different country. It's completely different, isn't it? It's just.
But here it's province to province. You can get so much different.
But that's why we say New Zealand is more like a compressed Canada. Yes, they can kind of squish it together, and because all of New Zealand would fit in the province we live in, right? But I think it's about third the size of the province we live in.
Yeah, it would easily fit in.
I think someone said on the comments once, New Zealand is, Canada is New Zealand on steroids or something like that. It's just
yes,
that's right.
That would actually be pretty true.
Yeah.
Plus the dangerous wildlife and the blood-sucking predators.
But
Suzanne,
the beauty, Susie, the beauty.
I'm not bitter.
Suzanne, you just referred to New Zealand as home, which is really interesting because have you always done that? Have you, as New Zealand, you've always referred to it as being home? Yeah.
As a country, New Zealand is my home. I live here, but
Yeah, you always have. Yeah.
You've made me feel so much better because sometimes, I mean, we don't do it so much now, but sometimes, and we've only been here 12 years in New Zealand, sometimes we'll say, oh yeah, we're going home to see the family. And people say, you live in New Zealand now, this is your home. You shouldn't keep referring to, and it's like, I think unless you've moved away from your own country, you don't know how that feels. You don't mean home as in you're not settled here. It's just like, that's your roots, isn't it? You know, it's just, I'm glad you said that because it made me feel better because I've always wondered if it's just the Brits that do that, if they come over to, New Zealand and Canada and they refer to home as back in England or back in the UK or whatever, but to hear a Kiwi do it's always made me feel better because it's like, see? Suzanne refers to New Zealand as home.
Yeah, so it's okay. You have permission.
Thank you.
There's a tendency, I think, because I am by nationality a New Zealander, so it is my home country because they've never given up my passport. And he should be grateful because it's only because of me he managed to get into New Zealand in the first place.
Sure. I want to talk about that. So, because you are now moving back to New Zealand and going to retire in New Zealand, aren't you?
Yeah.
How did you do that? Did you need a visa or what was that? Or how did that work out?
Yeah, it was.
You need to get yourself a Kiwi wife.
Get yourself a Kiwi wife. That's a good start. But it was. I thought it was going to be a much longer process. When we first started looking at it, we were being told it was going to take about a year to get the visa to go through. And so we applied, and I was trying to kind of time it to my retirement and so on and so forth. So we applied for the one, what was it, a partnership visa, I think it was. And when we started the process, the immigration officer wrote back and said, well, you actually qualify a permanent resident visa.
She was an amazing woman.
Incredible.
She was so nice to deal
Immigration
with.
New Zealand was just absolutely fantastic. They were such wonderful people. We had such a blast talking to her through our interview process. She was great, such a great person. So Carol, if you're watching, shout out to you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well done, Carol.
Yeah. So that's how we had to do. Like we could visit, obviously, we're visa exempt, kind of like I think the UK is to visit, but then you need a visa to live here or work here or whatever. Okay. So I've got my permanent resident visa. It took about 4 months.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. But you have got Susie to thank for that, hasn't he, Suzanne? Yeah. So don't ever forget that, young man. There you go.
I'll take money. Yeah. I accept credit card.
No, you usually just take cash.
Yeah, I prefer cash.
So when do you come in? It's not long now, is it?
We're getting to the point of retirement. So I'm 61 days away from retirement and not looking forward to it at all. And I could tell you how many minutes and seconds there is to if you wish. But so we're really looking forward to it. We are not actually sure yet. We've ordered a motorhome with a company, Traillight. Well, I guess I'll give them Traillight out of Pukekohe. I don't know how to say it. That's how I say it.
That sounded great, I think.
That area.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
And it is yet to go into the factory because of the COVID lockdowns and stuff. It was supposed to go in a few weeks ago and had to start the build, and it's going in sometime, I think, this week or next week.
It's supposed to go in the 10th.
And so once that starts and gets built, then we need to talk to them. It would be better for us if we actually didn't come over till like September.
Right.
Just so we not going for your winter.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And because we'll be going from our winter to your winter, and your winter is way better than ours, obviously. But it give us a better time to get everything done after I retire. But we may go right away as well. It's the world's a kind of a crazy place right now, so it might be a good time to get on the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, and so you're moving over here. You've had this camper, but Brian's dying to talk to you about this, by the way. When we do our private chat after this, Brian's going to just be giving you so many questions, because that is like your ideal dream, isn't it? You're having your camper built, you're moving back to New Zealand, and you're going to spend all this time in your retirement driving around New Zealand and it just sounds gorgeous. It just sounds so nice.
I sure hope so.
Oh,
that's what we're counting on.
Yeah, it's going to be like, so are you going to have a base? Are you going to like buy anywhere, rent anywhere, or are you just going to live in your camper full time?
Let me answer you.
Okay.
So what we had decided, we actually looked at a lot of options before we actually decided on the motorhome. We had looked at buying somewhere, but what I don't like is a place that's incredibly hot. Maybe growing up in Canada, that's probably why, I'm not sure. But I don't want any place that has snow. I'm so done. So we started looking at the options, and New Zealand we've always talked about it as our retirement spot, but we weren't sure that's what we were going to do till a few years ago. We were, because of my pension and the way my benefits work in it, I have full coverage while I'm in Canada, and I lose a bunch of them as soon as I leave the country for over 6 months. So we always thought we were going to live in Canada for 6 months and go somewhere else for 6 months. And with New Zealand being halfway across the world, we felt that may be too far. So we started to look at the Caribbean, Florida, Texas, Portugal, Malaysia, and some of those other places when we started to really look. And at the end of the day, most of those places end up being, I think, too hot for us. Plus, you start to get in the same thing you get with Australia, the deadly animals and the spiders, poisonous animals, I should say, which we really don't have to deal with too much here, except for the rattlesnakes, right? We don't have too much outside of that for us. So when that's how we came. And at the end of the day, New Zealand was a better Canada. And that's why we decided to go that way.
Weather-wise.
Yeah. But even to see everything.
It ticked more boxes. And for us, retiring, because we like to be outside.
Yeah.
We basically hibernate in Canada. It's cold, it's snow. You might make plans to go somewhere and then overnight there's 1.5 feet of snow. So the roads aren't even plowed. So even if we were winter sports people, snowing, skiing or any of those things, it's even difficult to make plans. How far do you have to drive? Is the road even clear between you and the next place? There could have been a snowstorm passed through there. When you're on the road, a snowstorm could come in. So a lot of Canadians, even though they're used to the conditions, are very leery about making any plans to drive anywhere in the winter.
Yeah. So, I guess I didn't fully answer the question.
But for retirement, because we like to be outside and we hibernate here in the winter, we have 4 seasons of traveling around in our motorhome in New Zealand that we can't do here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So coming back to your question, we had looked at what options were we going to just go buy somewhere, which we could have, but we weren't sure where in New Zealand was. And so we said, well, are we going to Airbnb and just travel around by car and do that for a while? And we said, well, we like camping. We like to get to some of these places where you want to get at an Airbnb. And that's why we decided for the first 2 years of being in New Zealand, we're going to try that. And maybe longer. It depends. And if it's longer, then we may even upgrade from the one we're buying. But for now, that's the route we decided to go with.
That sounds so exciting.
Plus I have my family.
Hey?
Plus I have my family.
That's right.
We can.
Yeah. And you've got us. You can come and stay with us anytime.
That's right.
Yes, you have.
Nice. Excellent.
No, I mean that. I mean it. If you want to come and stay, you're welcome. But I just think that sounds, to me, that would be my absolute dream, what you've just described. I can't think of anything more exciting than thinking I'm going to tour around. Are you listening, Bri? Because this is what I expect when we retire.
Well, you bought that car for your romantic.
Yes, he did. Yeah. He did well there. Oh, you're coming on now. It's just that just sounds like an absolute joy that you're going to be able to just, because the world's your oyster, New Zealand's your oyster, you know. You can just it's just brilliant, because you can, like, if you like one place, you can think, oh, let's just stay here a few months and check it out and then see what it's like, and then that's a brilliant way to do it. I just think you're going to love that. It's fantastic.
It's a fortune. We're very fortunate to be able to do what we're doing, for sure.
Yeah, you've worked for it. And the thing is, you've made this happen. I'm always a little bit, Anyway, I'm not gonna go on about people who say you're so lucky, because it's like, it's funny because luck and hard work go hand in hand, don't they?
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah,
and planning.
Yes,
and planning, because we started really focusing on the fact that he was retiring and what we were going to do 15 years at least ago. So financially, we started to set ourselves up, and we started doing, we've researched so many different things to make sure we're making the right decisions.
We'll never know for a fact that it was.
Well, there's always that, but
we're up for the adventure.
You are, darling. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing, is of course you'll never know, but imagine if you didn't try and you were thinking, I wonder what it would have been like to go around a motorhome in New Zealand. And I just think, honestly, it's admirable, and you're just such an inspirational couple that, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to end up being able to tour the country in a motorhome by accident.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So before I let you go, because I know that, like I say, we're planning on doing this extra chat with you afterwards, and I know it's tea time where you are. It's getting to dinner time.
Don't worry about that.
Oh, I could talk to you forever. You're just such a lovely couple, but it's just... What are you?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking, Suzanne.
All right, I see how this is going.
Go back. If you're going to be rude, go away.
No.
The check's in the mail, Brian.
No problem. Yeah, I got one yesterday as well.
What are you? What are you most excited about your new life in New Zealand? What are you excited about?
The adventure of being 100%. In the motorhome and just seeing the wildlife and the scenery, and there's opportunities to do freedom camping where there's a lake lapping right at your step. There's not a lot of them, but there's the odd ones, and you sit and think, oh my gosh, every once in a while I can get up with a cup of tea in the morning and sit there on my doorstep and look at the water lapping.
Yeah, so that's pretty good.
Like partly things like that we're looking forward to experiencing, finding.
Basically, I'm really excited to see some of the parrots.
Oh, really?
We have a parrot as a pet right now that we have to leave behind for obvious reasons. But I just seen some of the parrots and difference in the wildlife that you have. We've seen some of it, but
his favorite is the Kia, and he keeps threatening to feed it. And I said, "Well, you better not feed it. You better not feed it anywhere near our motorhome."
You're not allowed to feed them, so smart up.
Yeah.
But excited that, and then there's this where's that? There's a couple near that place, Taranaki. That's
Brian and Liz.
Yeah, promise to dig a hungy into their backyard.
I'm waiting for that.
So I'm packing a shovel to make that happen, and
I won't be there.
Yeah.
Oh, we can dig the hole anywhere in your lawn we want then.
Yeah, that's right.
That sounds exciting. That sounds brilliant. But I've got to say, Randy, I've got to say this, being a Canadian, and it's obvious that you love Canada. It just oozes out of you, for your passion for your country. You know, are you, I don't want to say, are you going to be sad to leave Canada? Because obviously you're leaving your home and you're going to this exciting adventure, but how do you really feel? Are you 100% in, or are you thinking, oh, you know, how is it easy for you, or are you struggling, or?
We've been thinking about this a long time, and so I'm 100% in.
Yeah.
But I'm going to miss my friends and family, like family especially. It's that's going to be the toughest part, clearly, just like it was for anybody else leaving where they are to move on. So that's clearly the biggest thing I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss actually the amount of lakes and water sports and everything else we do here, because even though New Zealand has similar things, it's not quite the same. We have a lot of opportunities here because of where we are and what we have. Like I have a pontoon boat now. I've had motorboats, like speedboats and stuff like that, and I can get them over there. But in the lifestyle we're going to be living, we're not going to be living that type of lifestyle. So some of the things we've set up here, I'm definitely going to miss, like driving around Manitoulin Island. But there's going to be new Manitoulin Islands.
Yeah.
There's going to be new things that are replaced. I'm always going to miss the family and such, but there's ways like this to talk to them and see them and come back for visits if we can, and so on and so forth. Or they have now a new adventure for them, coming to see us.
Exactly. Do you know what? I love that. And I know I keep saying it, but you're so inspirational, both of you. And it's like, we see a lot of people in our group who are in their 30s, you know, 30s, maybe 40s and things like that. And
same as us.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and what with us being in our 40s, you know, it's just,
that's right.
I love it. I know I keep saying it, but I love it because it must be even, it's even harder as you get older. And the fact that you're embracing it and doing it and just taking it, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah, it is.
It's just so inspirational.
Set yourself goals and stuff like that, and keep yourself young. I know you say you're retiring, but you never retire. You keep going.
Not when you come to our house. We've got plenty of sparky jobs here that you can be doing. Pay for your keep.
I've got some plastic pliers.
If you could get some plumbing for me, because I don't like plumbing and plumbing doesn't like me.
Oh.
So yeah.
Just one thing, Suzanne. If the All Blacks are playing Canada in rugby, who do you support?
The All Blacks?
You wouldn't dare not.
That's actually, we went and watched Auckland play Dunedin in Auckland, or Oakland, or however you say that. But many years ago with Susie's brother, we went for a game, and that was one of the most radical. That's when I realized that American football are a bunch or wusses.
Yeah.
Like you watch a rugby that's crazy.
Yeah. It is. It's a tough game. It really is. Like, you know, I know
you're not going to be able to hear you. You've got to speak into the microphone.
No, you can hear.
No, we can
okay.
hear.
Okay.
Yeah. When I used to play rugby at school, it's just, why does anyone want to do this? It just hurts so much, like, you know.
You might as well just stand there and take turns punch each other in the face. Right? That's
it. You just come up with this, you know, sore ears. Your ears have been ripped off in the scrum, and you're like, what's going on here? Like, you know.
That's because real men play rugby, Brian.
No, real men play football.
Go away anyway. So
with snooker.
Before I let you go, guys, if because we do lots of stuff on New Zealand, as you know, and we say about lots of things about what it's like living in New Zealand, but to have a Canadian on here, a Canadian couple that have, you know, been in Canada, and I know you're Kiwi, but it's just, if someone was moving to Canada now and, you know, they said, oh, what's one thing that you're going to tell me about Canada that I've got to expect? What would you say to them?
It's massive. Canada is incredibly large. It's beautiful. Like I said, it's so close in a lot of ways to New Zealand. For you have the mountains, you have the plains by Christchurch, and, you know, I guess Fiordland or whatever it's called. Or I don't know for a fact, but it's like taking stretching New Zealand out over it. Canada is very similar, but yet every province is different. Be very aware that if you're looking for a very specific type of life, you better look at each of the provinces as a separate state or country. The healthcare is different. The taxation is different. We have universal healthcare in the province, and every province is different. So, like, really, you have to pay attention. We go from 5 to 15% sales tax on everything. So the price you pay, you're paying anywhere 5% more to 15% more. And on vehicles, they're the most creative way to charge more taxes. You have tire taxes, air conditioning taxes, and all kinds of things like that. So we're a highly taxed nation. I think New Zealand is as well. But you really have to pay attention to what kind of life you really want. Because if you think you're going to get what you have in New Zealand in one province in Canada, and then we're a long ways across, like I said, it's 45 hours of straight driving for me to get to Vancouver from where I live. So you really have to know how vast it is. It's beautiful. There's lots of opportunities. There's actually, Canada is, I think, the seventh least populated countries in the world by density, right? So by area. So it's a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people. Oh, actually, that's another thing. Over 95% of the population of Canada lives within 200 kilometers of the border.
Yeah. Right.
Between the states. So if you go into the northern area of any of these, there's very few people.
Yes, it's not so easy, even though it's one country under the name of Canada. It's actually not that easy to move from one province to another. To
work, especially with
license. Especially if you're a tradesperson, because your license probably won't work there.
It's only on certain provinces. Like we have what is called interprovincial, which is supposed to be allow my electrical license to work as electrician in most provinces. Not all provinces accept it. So you'd have to write another test in that province. So it's so if you're coming to Canada, beautiful nature, lakes. Like I said, we got over 40% of the world's lakes in Canada. It's a great place to see all these weird and wonderful nature, ski hills, second to none in the world, right? Where I think you were Banff, Jasper. No, you weren't that far. You were
Whistler,
Whistler.
Whistler, yeah.
But we have amazing spots, just like New Zealand has, but it's way colder.
So if there's something that you've seen about Canada that draws you to Canada, make sure where you're going has that.
Yes.
Because the skiing that you have in the West Coast on the mountains, you don't get that here.
In the East Coast,
Well, in Ontario, you don't really get it.
Yeah, that's right. Our skiing is nowhere near the same.
That's such good advice, because like you say, you wouldn't. I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have known that each state, you know, was different and different rules and things like that. And like you say, licenses. That's such good advice.
It's crazy because in New Zealand, your license for a licensed plumber or a gas fitter or a drain layer is it's still, you can go and work in Australia and your license is the same, because we use the same building regulations and stuff like that. Not so much or codes, like, you know.
That's the way it should be, right? Across Canada, it should be the same. I know that in that, like, because that's my job, works in codes. That's what I do, right? That I enforce codes. We're trying to standardize to the national code, which is the American code. And it might never happen, probably will never happen, but that's what we're trying to do, bring them closer together.
Plastic pliers.
I need those for sure. No, they actually took all my tools away. I'm not allowed to do work anymore.
And I know. I do this every time when I ever interview anyone. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to let you go. I've just thought of a really, really important question to ask you, and then I promise I'll let you go. So when you come to New Zealand, how can I phrase it? They sort of say, like, to get on in New Zealand, you just get on with it. You know, that it's hard to say to someone, how will I fit in New Zealand? And you just want to say to people, you just get on with it. You do what you've got to do and you just get on with it. You don't, you know, that's all I can say is you just get on with it. And can you think of a better way to say it than that? And I just wondered if there was anything in Canada, like if you were coming to Canada, is there a saying that you'd say that, you know, if you're going to be Canadian and you want to really fit in here, just XYZ, what would it be? Like, you know,
stay away from anything political. It's the best thing to
right
do.
Okay,
right. You know how North American is. You hear it on the news, everything. It's best to stay away from anything political.
Right.
So
that's good advice. That's good advice.
That's what I would do.
Get on with your life and not worry about politics as much.
That's right.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Oh, you two, you've been flipping brilliant. I've loved speaking to you. I knew we were going to get on. I just knew, because you can just tell from when you text people, and you're just inspirational. You're fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us and just sharing this really exciting part of your life with us. It's just loved every minute. It's just been so fantastic.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, and we were looking forward to it a lot. It's great that, like, again, it's hard to explain because you two are so endearing to people. It's fun to watch you. You feel like you're already part of the family, and yet we know you don't know us at all. And so I was always careful on it's a drama, the Slack group. I want to say things because Brian likes to take shots, right? He shoot across people's mouths. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. But I always want to get involved. I go, no, he doesn't know me. I kind of feel like I know him, but he doesn't know me. So let's keep her down.
I know we have to just keep it kind of quiet on that Slack group. I can see it's like, oh yeah, we'd like to take it that bit further, but this is enough, because sometimes we won't get the humor, will they? Like, you know?
No, that's right. But I think that's one thing I think I did realize too. It is kind of strange or kind of cool is the UK. I'm assuming the UK's like that is very similar to Canada.
Yes, it is.
The sense of humors.
Yes.
We have very similar sense of humor.
We do, yeah.
That's when we were living in British Columbia, you just hit it off. Even when the next door neighbour was a painter, and, you know, he'd be shoveling snow on the driveway and we'd just be coming off with cracks, like, you know.
That's right.
Yeah, it's great, yeah.
Yeah, I think like you say, that, it is. It's very similar. Like Kiwi, Brits, you know, Canadian, they're just like, that's why, you get on. So, I'm going to say to you that I'm going to come I don't need to come and find you because you're going to come and see us in Taranaki. You promise you'll come and see us in your motorhome. I'd love to see you. Yeah.
We're going to be back here in November. So those first 4 months, you're going to have to do some traveling, then get up and see us.
We're going to be busy digging the hungy. So we'll be digging the hole in the yard. So.
Okay. So, and we're going to get back with you, maybe catch up after 6 months and see how you're getting on and see if this adventure is just as, you're going to have so much to share with us, and we're going to be really excited to see whereabouts in New Zealand that you like the best, sort of thing. So
and I've got a good tow rope, so I can give you a tow everywhere, because I know that vehicle you bought will break down.
I appreciate that. We're actually going to go buy a UK vehicle as a second vehicle to tow the Volkswagen around. So Land Rover or something like that.
Yeah, they're always handy. Not reliable, but they're good.
Yeah, there you go.
Suzanne and Randy, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure having you here, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Yeah.
For sure. Thanks for having us.
Okay,
It's been
bye,
a pleasure
guys.
being here.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
The biggest mistakes that people make when they move to New Zealand from another country is thinking that when they get here, everything's going to be hunky-dory. They're going to have left the stressful life that they had back home, they're going to arrive in New Zealand, and life is going to be wonderful. But that's not really the case.
Are we seeing the whole thing? Has it been a bed of roses for you guys? Because no, I know,
I'll let you take the lead on this.
Yeah.
No.